I'm making this video for households that have separate finances but shared goals, right? I'm talking about people that maybe have multiple bank accounts in the same household, or multiple debts, for example, where one person has their own individual debt, another person has own individual debt, and maybe they have joint debts as well, and it's kind of all over the place. I'm making this video for you to kind of explain how I would budget and how I would reach financial goals if I was in this situation. And I'm able to speak on this topic because if this is the first time meeting me, my name's Chris. I've been an accountant for 10 years now. My wife and I paid down $43,000 worth of debt in about a year, and we had a very, very similar situation where we had, so she had debt that was just to her name, I had debt that was just in my name, and then we had, shared debt, we'll call it, but we only had one bank account, okay? So it was really important for us to make sure that when we were really pushing to reach the financial goal of becoming debt-free, except for our mortgage, by the way, so no more credit cards, no more student loans, etc. We actually sat down every single month, okay? So once a month for 5 to 10 minutes, we literally sat in our living room and we had a debt meeting, okay? And we had a focused conversation on what the priority was for the month. So basically where we were going to be allocating our money, because again, we had different debts where, my wife was responsible for paying certain debts. I was responsible for paying debts, but it was all coming from the same bank account. So it was really important that one of us didn't make a mistake, according to our plan, and pay more or something than they should have when we really were supposed to prioritize this one thing, right? So we sat down for 5 to 10 minutes every month where we went through all of our debts, put down the totals, and then we looked at it and we just figured out what was going to be the priority that month, right? So we had this rinky-dinky spreadsheet, and my wife would take the computer, she would enter on all her stuff, I would take the computer, enter all my stuff, and what ended up happening was we had a shared aligned goal of, okay, these are the debts that we're focusing on. We're going to be putting as much money as we can to these, make the minimum payments for all the others. And we didn't realize it at the time, but we had actually been doing the debt snowball method for our loans, right? So we had 12 separate loans. And the majority of them were under $1,200, I think. There were 4 or 5 of them, so not the majority. But there were 4 or 5 that were under $1,200. And we were thinking, you know what? If we really cut down on some of our, expenses, living expenses, things that we don't need, we could really get rid of these $1,200 and less loans in a couple months, realistically. So what ended up happening was we paid off all the minimum loans and we put all the extra money that we had towards the smallest loan at the time, okay? So let's say it was, $500. So we would pay that off in the first month, $500. And then the amount of money that we were putting towards our debt, plus the minimum on the smallest loan, got rolled into the next smallest loan, okay? And this kept happening for our 12 loans. And eventually, the amount of money that we were putting towards our debt was significant, right? Because we had this big pot of money and it just kept rolling into the next smallest loan. So it was important that we were organized, because if we weren't, maybe one of us would have paid, extra money towards one of our loans and we shouldn't have, and it would have set us back a month or something. We would have been paying more interest, whatever the thing is. So it's just really important to stay organized. Now, from a budgeting perspective, okay, this is a little different. Let's say you have 2 different bank accounts, and say one of you is in charge of like one large expense, like maybe your rent, and then other stuff, and then the other person is in charge of another expense, like maybe you have a daycare or something that you're paying, and that's very expensive. Trust me, I know, we've got 2 kids ourselves, and it's absolutely possible for you to manage this, okay? You just need to be a little more organized. So actually, down in the description of this video, I have my personal finance level up kit, which has a budget template, a debt payment calculator, an emergency fund calculator, and a net worth tracker. And the debt payment calculator is going to really help you get organized with the debt example that I just spoke about. So basically, and you're able to use the debt snowball method in there. There's also a debt avalanche method, which is slightly different, which I'm not going to dive into in this video, but there's also the budget template down in the description, okay? And what this does is, before your budget even starts, you open the file, you're going to realize that the instructions are going to guide you to this process called the 3-month look back. Now, how it works is, I'm recording this video in October. You would take your July, August, September expenses, your variable expenses, things that fluctuate month to month, but things that you spend month to month. Think groceries, gas, utilities, okay? And we want to get an idea of how much money we're actually spending in each of the categories. Now, looking back 3 months between like your bank statements, your credit card statements, etc., that's a big, heavy lift, right? It's a big to-do, and I understand that. But the reason why we do this is the more data that you have, the more assumptions that we can make of where our money's going. And the whole point of this is to see where our money's going, and then the next step is to see how it's aligned with our financial goals and our life goals, okay? So if we're spending $1,000 a month on DoorDash, for example, that's probably not aligned with a financial goal or a life goal that you have. So maybe it's like, well, maybe we could turn this down. Our grocery spend, we can go up a little bit because we want to reduce our takeout. And then our takeout, let's just go way down, right? And we're gonna save some money doing that way. So if you have multiple bank accounts, right, there's gonna be a lot of transactions that you have to look at. So you could essentially do this for each individual person if you want, where you're looking at the expenses for person A and do the 3-month look back that way, and person B, the 3-month look back that way, and then sort of combine everything and then see what in totality what's going on. And then I just think that's gonna open up your eyes. And this only works if both people, so say your significant other, have an aligned goal, right? So if you guys have separate bank accounts because you don't want to see what you guys are buying, then like fair enough, this isn't gonna work. But if you guys are both aligned, one, I would recommend to maybe get a joint bank account. It's probably gonna be easier and you'll be able to stay more organized doing it that way. But if you don't and this is working for you, then that's totally fine. Just know that there's gonna be a little more thought process, a little more organization that's needed from you to make this work. At the end of the day, we want to look at our variable expenses because that's where we are able to change the most, right? Your rent or your mortgage, that's not going to change, right? If you have childcare, I think these days it's not based on like hourlies anymore. It's just like a chunk amount every single week or month, whatever. So that's probably not going to change, right? Things like if you have a car payment, that's not going to change, right? So you get it. Just a little caveat here. I don't want you to think about a budget as being fully restrictive, right? So I talked about finding a thing to cut, but you could also go through this process and realize that you're not spending enough in a certain category that is aligned with your financial goals, right? And I use this example where fitness, for example, let's say fitness is really important to you and you look at the money that you're spending on your fitness and health and you're like, you know what, this isn't enough at all. Like it's really important to me. So like I have 2 kids, for example, so health and fitness is important to me. I want to like, stay alive for them as long as possible. You could look at it and be like, wow, I'm only spending $30 a month on my health and fitness. Like I probably need to increase this to do more classes at the gym or like, I don't know, supplements or protein powder, whatever, right? And I need to increase this to $100 a month because it's just so important to me that I'm willing to put more money to this and I'll just find other ways to make it work in my budget. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I'm uploading daily videos, all things personal finances. So let me know down in the comments what topic you want me to hear from next, and I will see you in the next one.